When people think about Michael J. Fox, they usually think about joy. They think about laughter, energy, and that fast-talking charm that made him feel like someone you already knew. For more than 40 years, he has been a symbol of optimism, even when life gave him reasons to give up. Now, at 64 years old, Michael J. Fox has reached a stage in life where he speaks openly about things most people avoid, including death. In one honest moment, he shared that there's a certain kind of person he doesn't want at his funeral. It was not said with anger or bitterness. It was said with clarity. To understand why he feels this way, you have to understand who he is, where he came from, and how facing Parkinson's disease changed the way he sees life, fame, and meaning. Michael Andrew Fox was born on June 9, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He grew up in a military family, which meant his childhood was full of movement. His father served in the Canadian Armed Forces, and because of that, the family moved often. Michael was always the new kid, always learning how to fit in, how to make friends quickly, how to read people. This constant change shaped him. It taught him humor as a survival tool and kindness as a bridge. Acting became his escape early on. By the time he was a teenager, he knew he wanted to perform. At just 15 years old, he made a decision that scared his parents. He dropped out of high school to pursue acting full-time. It was a risky move, especially in a world where very few dreams come true. But Michael was determined. He moved to Los Angeles with very little money, sleeping on a mattress on the floor and struggling to get by. He took small roles, commercials, and guest spots, hearing no far more often than yes. Those early years taught him humility. Fame was not guaranteed. Success was fragile. Then everything changed in 1982 when he was cast as Alex P. Keaton on the TV show Family Ties. The character was smart, fast-talking, and confident, and Michael brought him to life in a way that audiences loved. He quickly became a star. But even then, he did not act like someone who believed fame would last forever. He worked harder, stayed grounded, and treated people well. That attitude followed him into his film career. In 1985, Back to the Future turned him into a global icon. The movie became the highest-grossing film of the year, and Michael J. Fox became one of the most recognizable actors in the world. Suddenly, he was everywhere. Magazine covers, interviews, awards, and fan attention followed him non-stop. He starred in hit after hit, including Teen Wolf, The Secret of My Success, and later the Back to the Future sequels. To the outside world, his life looked perfect. He was young, successful, talented, and admired by millions. But life has a way of changing without warning. In 1991, at just 29 years old, Michael noticed something small but strange. His finger began to twitch. At first, he ignored it. He was working long hours and assumed it was stress or exhaustion. But the shaking did not stop. It slowly got worse. After seeing doctors and undergoing tests, he heard words that changed everything. He was diagnosed with young-onset Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is a progressive condition that affects movement, balance, and speech. It has no cure. For Michael, the diagnosis felt unreal. Parkinson's was something he associated with old age, not with young fathers and movie stars at the height of their careers. He searched for second opinions, hoping someone would tell him it was a mistake. No one did. The truth settled in slowly and painfully. Fear took over. He worried about his career, his family, and his future. Instead of facing it right away, he hid. For 7 years, he told almost no one outside his closest circle. He continued acting while secretly managing his symptoms. He learned ways to hide tremors, adjusted his movements, and carefully timed his medication. On the outside, he looked fine. On the inside, he was struggling. During this time, he began drinking heavily, trying to escape the reality he was not ready to accept. He later admitted that alcohol became a way to numb the fear. Despite all this, he kept showing up to work. He starred in the TV show Spin City, playing a high-energy political aide. The role demanded physical comedy and fast movement, which made hiding Parkinson's even harder. Still, he pushed through. Eventually, the weight of hiding became too much. In 1998, Michael J. Fox went public with his diagnosis. Instead of losing respect, he gained something far more powerful. People saw his honesty. They saw his courage. He became an advocate for Parkinson's research and founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Fox Foundation, which has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to help find better treatments and a cure. Through this journey, his view of life began to change. Fame stopped mattering as much. Applause became less important than authenticity. He began thinking deeply about legacy, not in terms of awards or movies, but in terms of impact. This is where his thoughts about death and funerals come in. When Michael J. Fox spoke about who he does not want at his funeral, he was not talking about specific names. He was talking about a type of presence. He made it clear that he does not want people who show up out of obligation, curiosity, or for attention. He does not want people who only knew the famous version of him but never understood the human being behind the roles. Facing a serious illness taught him that life is not about who watches you when you succeed. It is about who stands beside you when things get hard. His illness stripped away the illusion of invincibility and revealed what truly matters. For Michael, the idea of a funeral is not about sadness or drama. It is about honesty. It is about being surrounded, even in memory, by people who showed up with love, patience, and real connection. That belief did not come from fame. It came from struggle, and it sets the stage for the deeper meaning behind his words, which will become even clearer as his journey continues. After Michael J. Fox went public with his Parkinson's diagnosis in 1998, his life entered a new chapter, one that was very different from the fast-paced Hollywood years people remembered. Speaking openly about his illness did not make things easier physically, but it did lift a heavy emotional weight. For years he had been hiding, afraid that the truth would cost him his career and the respect of others. Instead, something unexpected happened. People responded with empathy. Fans, fellow actors, and even strangers shared their own stories of illness, fear, and resilience. Michael realized that honesty created connection, not weakness. This realization changed the way he looked at everything, including success, relationships, and how he wanted to be remembered. As Parkinson slowly progressed, everyday tasks became harder. Simple actions like walking, speaking clearly, or holding objects required more effort and concentration. Some days were better than others. Medication helped, but it came with side effects. Michael often described his life as a balance between control and acceptance. He learned that he could not control the disease, but he could control how he responded to it. That mindset became central to who he was. Instead of focusing on what he lost, he focused on what he still had. A supportive wife, Tracy Pollan, who stood by him through every stage. 4 children who grounded him and reminded him of what truly mattered. Friends who stayed, not because of fame, but because of love. As his acting career slowed, his advocacy work grew. He founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation with one clear goal: to help find better treatments and one day, a cure for Parkinson's disease. Over the years, the foundation became one of the most respected organizations in medical research, raising hundreds of millions of dollars. But for Michael, it was never about recognition. It was about purpose. Parkinson's had taken many things from him, but it had also given him a mission. This shift in purpose deeply affected how he viewed people in his life. Illness has a way of revealing truth. Some people step closer when things get hard. Others quietly step away. Michael noticed this, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He learned that not everyone who enjoys your success is willing to share your struggle. That lesson stayed with him. As he aged and his condition became more visible. Interviews took on a deeper tone. He spoke openly about mortality, something he once avoided. He talked about how living with Parkinson's forced him to think about time differently. Time was no longer endless. Each day mattered. Each interaction mattered. This is why, when he spoke about his funeral, his words carried weight. He explained that he does not want his funeral to be a performance, or a gathering of people who only knew his public image. He does not want people who come out of curiosity, guilt, or obligation. He does not want those who ignored him during the hardest moments to suddenly appear when it is safe and socially expected. For Michael, a funeral is not about numbers. It is about truth. He wants it to reflect the real relationships in his life, not the illusion created by fame. Parkinson's taught him that real support is quiet and consistent. It shows up without cameras. It does not need recognition. It stays when things are uncomfortable. This belief also changed how he interacted with the world. Michael became more selective with his energy. He learned to say no. He learned that protecting his peace was not selfish, but necessary. Humor remained a huge part of his personality. Even as his body betrayed him at times, his wit stayed sharp. He joked about his condition, not to minimize it, but to disarm fear. Laughter became another form of control. But beneath the humor was a deep understanding of vulnerability. Michael often spoke about gratitude, not as a motivational phrase, but as a daily practice. Gratitude for his family, for meaningful work, for moments of joy that still existed despite illness. He acknowledged that Parkinson's was unfair, but he refused to let bitterness define him. This attitude shaped how people saw him, not just as an actor or advocate, but as a human being navigating something incredibly difficult with grace. As the years passed, Michael reduced his acting work significantly. Eventually, he retired from acting altogether. This decision was painful, but it was also honest. He recognized his limits and chose dignity over denial. Walking away from a career he loved was not a failure. It was an act of self-respect. In stepping back, he created space for reflection. He wrote books, shared his experiences, and continued advocating for research. His voice, though sometimes shaky, remained powerful. Through all of this, his thoughts about legacy became clearer. Legacy, to Michael J. Fox, is not about movies or awards. It is about the lives you touch and the honesty you live with. It is about showing up as yourself, even when that self is struggling. This belief explains why he is so clear about who he does not want at his funeral. He does not want people who only celebrate success and disappear during hardship. He does not want shallow connections that were built on admiration rather than understanding. His funeral, in his mind, it is a final reflection of a life lived honestly. Facing Parkinson's taught him that life is fragile, time is limited, and authenticity matters more than approval. These lessons shaped his boundaries, his relationships, and his vision of how he wants to be remembered. For Michael J. Fox, the people who matter are not those who watched from a distance, but those who walked beside him through uncertainty, fear, and hope. That understanding continues to guide him as he lives each day with intention, clarity, and courage. As Michael J. Fox moved into his 60s, his life became quieter in some ways, but deeper in others. Parkinson's continued to progress, and there was no pretending otherwise. His movements became slower and more unsteady. Speaking required more effort. Tasks that once felt automatic now demanded patience and planning. Yet even as his physical abilities changed, his perspective grew stronger. Michael began talking openly about acceptance, not as giving up, but as understanding reality and choosing how to live within it. He often explained that acceptance did not mean liking the disease or being at peace with the pain. It meant refusing to waste energy fighting what could not be changed. This outlook helped him focus on what still brought meaning to his life. His family remained his foundation. His marriage to Tracy Pollan stood as one of the quiet success stories of Hollywood, built not on perfection, but on loyalty, humor, and shared resilience. His children gave him perspective, reminding him that life was still full of moments worth showing up for. Even as his public appearances became fewer, his influence remained strong. People listened when he spoke, because his words came from lived experience, not theory. When Michael talked about death and funerals, it was never in a dark or dramatic way. He spoke about it with honesty and even warmth. He made it clear that he was not afraid of death itself. What mattered to him was how people lived, not how they were remembered in grand speeches. This is where his statement about who he does not want at his funeral takes its full meaning. He explained that he does not want people who only arrive at the end, people who stayed away during the hard years but show up when there is nothing left to risk. He does not want those who admired the image but ignored the reality. To Michael, illness revealed character, both in himself and in others.